all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a little bit of, well, I'm not sure whether to welcome you to Tag Time or Watercolour Wednesday, because we're going to use some of these watercolour stencil backgrounds that we made a while back. I will link to that video and take them on to be, they may not be quite tags, they may be panels, but you know what I mean. They're sort of tag shaped. I think it's these two that my eye is drawn to today, using the amazing Tim Holtz wheel stencil. All the details about the other stencils here are obviously in that other video, so follow the link for that. I do like that one, quite like the wordy one, but I don't think they're what I'm after today. We may have a use for those though at some point, because I've also got on the desk the Tim Holtz silhouette birds, because I feel like it's a long time since I've used them. I've just noticed these two are on slightly different papers. So one of them's got a much more of a off-white background, and that one's a full-on white background, but I don't think I mind. What I do slightly mind is that they are slightly different sizes, and at the moment that's slightly offending my eye. Usually I'd have no problem with it, but there's just something today, maybe partly because of the not matching paper, that makes me want them to match more precisely in other ways. Let's have a look. That's about the same distance to the start of it, so I will chop off, I think, this little bit of additional backing, even though it's going to mean I'm going to lose a little bit of that nice smudge. So I'm just using the card itself as the guideline for that. I've got some bits of fabric here. They're seams from a vintage French dishcloth bought on my recent adventures in France when I did the Artsy Crafts retreat for Paper Artsy. They're based in the Dordogne in beautiful southwest France, and yeah, we visited quite a few brocantes, the sort of flea market antique type places where, yeah, somehow the French still have oodles of vintage gorgeousness to sell. As I say, I've used some of the cloth on the project for, actually, why don't I get them and show you? So here are some of the textures we made on the fabric in the first class of the Flowers Fest Art Magic, which has just started. This is July 2026 I'm talking about. And yeah, the first class was with Francisca Nunez. And yeah, we did lots of botanically inspired textures onto fabric. So yeah, one of them's already made it into an art journal page. A little bit of that. The theme is roots and wings. Could you guess? Those Tim Holtz moths have been putting in an appearance again. In any case, these were the main bit of the dishcloth, and I've got these seams which are quite funky. Or I could, there's a little bit of extra here, which if I'm finding the seams a bit much, I could again rip off to get myself. Let's maybe do that. What I found was, as long as you start it, these will actually rip quite nicely, I hope, even when it's that fine. Oh no, that's not going to work. It's too skinny, that bit that I'm trying to rip off the seam. So let's cut a bit. So any old fabric will do, obviously. It doesn't have to be a vintage French dishcloth. I quite often, when a white blouse of mine has died a death and I've worn it to smithereens, which I do with my clothes. Lots of you are always asking about these tops that I wear. And yeah, I bought them at least 30 years ago. So it's no use asking me where I got them, I'm afraid. But that does tend to be what I do with clothing. It hangs around for a long time. But when it falls completely to pieces, I will almost always rescue some of the white cotton fabric or linen fabric or whatever it might be, and transfer it into crafty usage. So I'm just thinking this is quite a nice texture to have. It's because I was playing with the fabric yesterday for the Flowers Magic Art Fest class, and yeah, I had these vintage dishcloths that I had brought back intending to use, and I thought, well, let's do it before they disappear into the maw of the craft room, because as you'll know, that is what also happens. Things just kind of get lost in amongst the supplies. So let's use them while they're right here near the top. I'm just snipping off a little bit more of that. Sorry, I don't know why I sort of lean off camera to do that. I've noticed it's happened a number of times when I'm cutting. I somehow lean off to the right. It's just it's a habit, I guess. Maybe I do it. Oh, well, I think maybe I do it when I'm not filming as well. I do it because what it does is it means if any bits fall off whatever I'm cutting, they're not going to land on whatever project I'm working on. So I'm enjoying those threads, enjoying those random bits of sort of threadiness as well. I'm, again, obviously, compositionally, working these at slightly different heights so that although we've got repetition, we've got variation and they're happening in a different place. I'm enjoying that additional texture quite a lot. What I am wondering is whether I want to mount these on a slightly differently coloured background. In fact, since the art journal is right here, this is my craft art journal. Do I like the look of them over? I do quite. Maybe what I do is I mount them on some cardboard, but with some outline sticking out. I'm thinking dried flowers. Of course I am. Of course I am. But I'm also thinking if I'm going to go away and get some craft card or cardboard, what I could also do while I'm there is the other thought I had, because I've got these multiple backgrounds, if there's one I'm not particularly keen on, and there is one that doesn't seem particularly exciting, potentially that one. But these have got, potentially that one, these have already got coordinating colours involved. So that if I then take a die cut, can be anything, doesn't have to be silhouette birds, could be flower stems, could be circles, gears, anything. But with a coordinating background already in place, then I know I'm going to cut something that's going to harmonise with what's going on. If you want a contrast, then you want to cut it out of something completely different, like, oh, hello. That's what I was playing with, wasn't it, at the end of the other video? I wonder if those maybe have a use here. And there's this bit of rusty fabric, or maybe we just leave this to happen another day. I do think that's a thing. I'm going to leave it be. Going to leave it there ready for maybe next week's Tag Wednesday. Tag, oh, see now, look what I've done. Tag Time Watercolour Wednesday just became Tag Wednesday. That's not what I was talking about. Good. I'm going to cut some of these from here, and I'm going to maybe mount this onto some cardboard, although looking at it like that, I'm quite enjoying the white background, so maybe I won't. There we go. I thought while we're at it, I would cut some out of a contrasting background, given I've just been talking about that, so that you can have a look at what I mean about the difference between the two. So there's one of each. There he is in the blue-green harmonious. There he is in the rusty red contrast. So there I get something very gentle. You almost have to look to find him. It's subtle, he's camouflaged. He might not be the one to use because he is a bit too camouflaged. That gives you a bird that you really notice, a focal point, a contrast, and maybe that is what I'm in the mood for today. I like him there looking up at the poppies seeds. That's rather delightful. So maybe what we do is we have you looking up at the poppy seeds. That's a bit too much repetition. You will also look up at the poppy seeds, won't you? Let's have a look. So if you're there, you're looking up at poppy seeds. That's quite nice. But what I also like is the notion that although he's looking up at them, somebody else is looking down and away, not you. I do like the brighter bit of that background. I tried to hit those brighter areas with my cutting. I think it might be that. And I'm just wondering if I want another of those kinds of colourful bits somewhere else, but maybe we'll just do it with some spatter. Let's have a look at the harmonious alternative there. I mean, that's nice too. It's very gentle, and I think I'm more in the mood for that. I might zhuzh those up with a little pen outline, or I might leave them as they are. We did some outlining, I think, with just a fine marker the other day of these. Let's have a look. I was also thinking these gorgeous metal bits that I picked up in a sale. I think they're probably discontinued now, but I do rather like them. What are they called? Factory tags. And they're delicious. I wondered whether I might be in the mood for some of those, because I really like the contrast between the soft texture of the fabric and the organic look of the stems against something a bit more industrial. And yeah, that's cool. I like that one. This one's a bit much. So let's have a look at one of these others. Oh, that's good. Ink and paint department. Well, that seems like the one we should use. I love Owen Design Studio. I love that, you know, Tim Holtz and his designers have clearly gone out looking for, as I do myself with my ephemera stamps, the photographic studios, the art magazine ephemera on the stamp sets. They're looking deliberately for something that's going to tickle us. What we could do is get those to look a little more rusty with the help of a bit of alcohol ink. Just wondering whether, yeah, I do like that one, even though it hasn't got the extra writing on. I'm going to give these a slightly more rusty edge with a couple of alcohol inks. I'll be right back. I've zoomed in a bit. You can absolutely alter metal with all kinds of mediums. Paint is good. We've done it with distress paint in the past, I think. But if you want to just keep the look of the metal itself, alcohol inks is one of the ways to just keep that. Oh, it doesn't want to open. It's a while since I've been into there. This is rust. I'm just going to dot some of that on, let it fall into the creases, and in a minute I'll just knock it back with a bit of kitchen roll. Oh dear, almost run out of kitchen roll. I'd have to go away again if I'm not careful. So with that, I'm just going to spread that across the tag a little bit. You can see it's rusting that up nicely. Don't want too much of it. It just gives you that impression. And then the other one that Tim is always recommending for vintaging things, and yes, I completely agree, is mushroom, which is a brilliant, just sort of, I mean, it's the equivalent of pumice stone, I guess, in an alcohol ink. So obviously it's always been a favourite of mine, but it will just also give you a little sort of weathered, aged look on anything you use it on. So again, I don't want too much of it. I quite like that it's pooling in places around those creases and so on. And so just creating a little bit of texture. As that dries, that becomes permanent. That won't go anywhere once it's dried on there. And alcohol ink does tend to dry quite quickly unless you make a complete puddle of it like I just did there. If you get it on something you don't want it on, then just a little bit of rubbing alcohol, blending alcohol will do the trick. So those are now, let me compare it to the plain old silver one. They've just got a look of vintage rustiness that I think is going to tone in quite nicely with those slightly rusty birds we've got. I'm swapping them over because I think, given that one's higher up, it wants to be the slightly lighter, slightly less chunky one of those. Good, so you guys can go away. I think I'm good with what I've got there. Just wondering about a few, you know what I'm reaching for, don't you? Tiny curator labels, there they are. And again, thinking about whether there's something, I seem to be opening a new packet. Pretty sure I've got just a few, yes, and they've all just come out of the bottom. Few odds and sods, I was going to say, there. And yeah, the pinks and the rusts could again be quite useful in just creating contrast. Now I seem to be going down a contrasting route. I don't want all browns and reds. I do want some neutrals. So let's just pull out a few varieties. So yeah, using up the old ends of these. There are probably quite a lot of reddish ones in here because they tend to get left till last because I'm least interested in them. Can't think why. I'm quite enjoying that little gathering of things. Don't want the green particularly. You something a bit paler over here. Yeah, that'll do me. And what else have we got? That's very red. That's quite a nice neutral to just soften things, but it's a bit yellowy coloured. That's quite a nice rusty one, but it might be too much. with that bird. Maybe. maybe. In which case I'm going to want something slightly rusty and pinky again over here. Grand. Let's have a little fiddle with what we've got out on the mat and see how that lines up for us. What I'm thinking is I might glue down this fabric, or maybe staple it. No, let's glue it, and then we know what we're doing. And maybe we'll apply these, in which case I do want to mount these. I think I've decided I don't want a surround, as it were, a frame for these. I am liking that bright white, particularly now we're building more concentrated colour. I want the eye to continue to be able to spread out. If I put a frame round, it'll suck the eye into the middle. By leaving it white and open, I'm allowing the eye to continue to open out into the universe and go off in various directions. Good, so you go that way, you go that way, and let's get these attached. I think just a bit of glue, actually. This one's very thick, this one's quite thin, so let's put the thinner secondary piece with the thick one and the thicker secondary piece with the thin one. I've lost some of those threads, but not to worry, I've got plenty more hanging around over here where I've been ripping things. I guess I could glue this before I glue it onto cardboard. There's nothing stopping me, is there? So I think this one's going about here. Everything will shift at this point. I know it always happens. I don't want you too low down, of course, because we've got our bird, although it's quite nice if he's connected to the fabric. I think I do want it in a straight line, however. I don't want it all wonky. You could make it wonky because it's fabric. It'll move according to your wishes. But that's giving me something quite nice. Let's let that go off on a little journey. I'm going to pull those apart a little bit. They're a bit solid at the moment. And just kind of let those drift across the page. I'll just put a couple of helpful bits of glue that they can choose to stick to. There we go. And I'll just leave that be for a bit. You go there. That's where I'd like you. Thank you. Thank you for behaving a little bit. Okay, let's pop you here, just a little bit further up. That's going to be my long one. Coming off the edges. You know how I love things emerging from the edges of tags. That one's got its thready bits still attached to it, but I might still want to encourage them to go in certain directions. You will get slightly gluey fingers doing this because the fabric is a weave and glue will come through. That seems useful. Going up there. Might add a bit more coming downwards because I do... Oh, there's a bird there, isn't there? I mean, there isn't at the moment, but there will be. Let's do that. Coming down there. And maybe another little bit coming off in this direction. That's all by itself really nice. I'm wondering whether I should simplify a bit because I'm already enjoying just that. Let's continue to look at these birds just briefly. I know they are a good focal point, aren't they? Seed heads. Or maybe the Acrylic seed heads. They're quite strong. Quite liking the gentler look of these. Send you up there. You're not quite reaching the bottom. I need a longer poppy seed head. These obviously are just grown and gathered from my garden. I don't know that anybody will sell you poppy seed heads. Not sure. I had swapped those over, hadn't I think? And I do want to look at it at least. Let's get a slightly larger one of these. I think it may be to do with the heat at the moment, not that we've got the extreme heat wave that everybody else has got across Europe, but we have had warm weather, and I think it's that warm weather that is encouraging me at the moment to go for this slightly more open look on things. It's altogether cooler and airier and softer. I'm just creating a little bit of ground for my bird to stand on. I think just like that probably. So this is a little bit of Tim Holtz design tape. It's not quite straight. Yeah, I wonder if the straight lines have got anything to do with it as well. The just wanting things to feel orderly and cooler and airier rather than hot and sticky and chaotic. It's a desire for gentleness and softness and a little bit of ease in daily life. Good, so we'll pop you here. So this little bird's got somewhere to stand. That's going to also hold down some of that thread, which is a win-win. There he goes, not straight. That's really interesting. Usually that wouldn't bother me at all. Today, however, really bothering me. Grand, that there. I've been wondering whether to wrap some wire around through here and pretend it's the wire holding it, but I think I don't want another big horizontal line. I've got the horizontal lines of the cloth. They're doing a lovely job, so I think this is probably just going to go down with some little attachers, brads, essentially. Not the tiny attacher, not the staple. What do they call them? I can't think of the word at the moment. That'll be the heat as well, I guess. There we go. That's him. That's this one. And in this light, airy, sort of slightly more minimalist look, it's interesting. It is about summertime, I think. We're wanting things a bit softer and gentler. In winter, everything wants to huddle together and be cozy. Lots more labels, lots more this, lots more that. This, I'm really feeling that open air sort of beach. It's a beachy feeling, partly because of the colour palette. It's sand dunes and grasses and that kind of thing. I'm going to use a little bit of my usual Liquitex super heavy gel. That's going to glue my poppy seed heads down. And then really, once I've attached this, I shouldn't have to worry too much about the stems. If that's attached over the top of these, they're not going to go anywhere. I would really like you to face that way though, if you're willing. Thank you. You do have to negotiate with natural elements, not necessarily out loud as I just did, but sometimes something simply doesn't want to bend in the direction you'd like it to bend in, and then you do sometimes have to yield. Occasionally you can kind of go, no, I know that I can get you to go in the other direction if I'm gentle and coaxing. What I don't want is to snap those stems by forcing them to go somewhere they don't want to go. So again, repetition, variation, facing outwards from each other, both facing in one direction, blown by the wind, obviously, the imaginary wind. Now, usually you would suggest that an odd number of stems, as in floristry, is the way to go. So a trio is quite often a nice thing, but for me, that's going to overcrowd things here. So given our eye wants to see 3, if I've only got 2, that gives me a sort of a real sense of bareness, spareness, slight emptiness, and again, that sense of open space. So although we're conditioned to like the rule of 3, both poetically and visually, we like things in 3s. Ready, steady, go, Tom, Dick and Harry, beginning, middle and end. You can play with that convention of 3. If you load things to more than 3, use 4s and 5s, things will feel very crowded to our human brains that like things in 3s. If you peel back to just a 2, then you're giving that sense of a bit more space because the expected number 3 is not there. So yes, there are patterns, but then you can deliberately exploit those patterns or change those patterns to create a different kind of effect. These are the things I'm talking about. I can't at the moment remember what they're called. I will, of course, be listing things in the description down below, and by then I'll have looked it up. I'm picking out the slightly rusty coloured ones. There are there are bronze ones, silver ones, and then these sort of rustier brown ones. So that's a gold. I don't want that. I think you're also gold. Come on, I need 2 more brown ones. Go fish. You look brown to me. And there's another one. I think you're brown. Yeah, good. So I've got 4 of those. And then what I'll usually do is just use my trusty bradawl pointy tool to create the holes where I want them. So, oh look, see, it's rolling back. It really didn't want to do that. I apologise. It's to do with the way the stem is bending. But I'm going to remain firm on this. I want you going in that direction. Quite apart from anything else, you've got a big wad of glue on the back of you now. So it's a question of getting it where you want it. Oh dear. It's the other alternative, of course, if you're not impatient like me, is to let that glue dry before you go in and do something like this. But I'm here now and I'm persevering. Stop rolling. Stay there. Okay, you can roll part way, but I'm not having you all the way. Right, I thought this was simple. Okay, all right, I'll let you dry. Fine, fine, you win. You need a bit more glue back because I've now moved you around 6 times. Not so much that it smooshes out everywhere. This is also the heat. My lack of patience to play silly games with poppy seed heads is a sign of the heat. Let's pop those there and let them dry. These are set enough that I can get in there. The Liquitex will hold, as long as you don't bully things like I've just been doing. The Liquitex will hold things in place. So let's demonstrate what I was about to demonstrate over here instead with these ones that are nicely behaved. So I just take the brad awl straight through the hole where I want it. Holder goes in. I never make both holes at once. I tend to make the hole, get that in, which just unfolds at the back to hold it in place like any old brad. And then I can double check that my second hole is where I need it, both in terms of how tight I want it to the paper, in terms of making sure it's straight. Danger of making both holes at once is that it just bounces up somehow and you end up with things not quite working. Having said those were holding, they've gone everywhere. But that glue will dry clear anyway. But you can see that's now holding those stems in place. I can do a little bit of adjusting to just get them where I'd like them. There we go, that's what I want. Okay, you guys, come on, let me. I don't want to stop and dry things. I just like to get on. Get done, go and water the garden. Okay, so that's going there. They're a little bit more willing to stay now, except of course I want this a bit further over. Ah, yes. Okay, I'm going away, going to let this dry, going to add that, and then I'm going to see what I want in terms of labels or not. I'm at the moment uncertain. That'll teach me to try to impose my will on nature. He absolutely didn't want to go in that direction, so now our repetition and variation is facing outwards, facing inwards. He just didn't want to go that way, so I've yielded. I've seen the error of my ways, and I've been tempted into a little bit of stamping. I think rather than labels, I think it might be some simple little bits of detail stamping with this. And of course I'm also aware that I haven't got strictly any words yet. I've got ink and paint department going on over here, and these are going to be words because they're little kind of oh look. So now let's go that way and then it won't be over the top of the poppy. That's good. Yes, 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 yes. See, sometimes you just have to be patient with yourself and you'll see the way through. So I'm going to pop that there. That's good. I think I want something maybe round to echo both the wheel in the background, but also these little poppy seed heads. So this is the Tim Holtz. It's the set we used the other day, in fact. Eccentric, I think it's called. And it's just full of all these little detail stamps, industrial stamps. Yes. And what I might also do is do a little bit of stamping with something, maybe something like Uncharted Mariner would work with that, because what it is just that Prussian blue-ish kind of a colour. I think we want something fairly subtle for that though. Let's maybe go Don't fall out, number 5. We used you the other day. You're not in today, I don't think. Maybe this little one here, or no, identification card stub. I like that. So if I put this on dab, 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 I'll get a really thick coating of ink. What I think I want to do is just sweep it across. So that's just a gentler application of ink. Where do I want it? I think maybe across the blue bit, or near the blue bit. Let's have a look here first. Yeah, I think that's going to do a nice thing. Yes, it is. So I'll do the same or similar over here. Again, just a sweep of the ink as opposed to a full-on stamping. And oh, it's upside down now. Watch it. A little bit lower down. There it is. Oh, and that's gone on the fabric as well. That's so cool. That's so cool. That needs something with it. So I'm going to go with this little round one here, but back to the sepia, just to get that rusty look. And we might do this at the same time to get half and half. I do love a partial stamping, as you know. Yeah, that's doing a nice job. And I want the other half of it somewhere here and somewhere here. And that is good. That little crunching noise you heard was me pressing on the poppy seed head, but he's fine. That's good. Enjoying that. And then what I think I might do is a little bit of Uncharted Mariner spatter. I could get out these watercolour paints, but I'm just going to go with the distress ink that is here. Get it across some of those white spaces. So although I'm enjoying the white space, I don't want it so glaringly white, particularly given that one is white and one is beige. This again is just drawing things together. That's nice. And then I think I probably want a little bit of rusty spatter as well. So for that, I'm going to use good old vintage photo with maybe a hint of the Crackling Campfire in, because I have a feeling that's the colour that might be going on in these birds. I'd have to go back and track down that background to be sure, but I think it's probably that. There's my skonky spatter brush. Yeah, look, see, that's giving me good old rust. Vintage Photo and Crackling Campfire are a brilliant rusty combination in oxide and in ink. Actually, what I quite often do is use Vintage Photo oxide, Crackling Campfire ink, and that gives me a really nice, yeah, I think that's good. Do I want some white spatter? Probably not. If you feel it's a bit much in places, get in there with the kitchen towel. This is watercolor paper, so it's grabbed it more quickly than other papers might. A slick surface would have let go of that more easily. And I think that might be done for the day. There we go. Let's just have a look at them here. Oh, maybe I do just need to look at some words. Not sure. Back in a sec. I have pulled out a couple of the small talk stickers, and what I do like about this is I've got 1, 2, 3 white horizontal stripes now with the fabric, and then this. What I have to decide is whether I can deal with it being bumpy if I press it down over these poppy seed stems, or whether I want to glue it onto some cardboard. So, or, there we go. Okay, so rather than gluing all the way along it, I'm going to, do I want to edge it first? Do I want it edged? Maybe I do want it just a little bit edged with a gentle sepia-ish colour. I don't want to come too much onto it. So sometimes when I ink these up, I get lots of ink by angling the blending brush towards the thing. But if I just want it literally on the edge, I'll make sure I angle the blending tool, sorry, not brush, at a proper right angle, and then it'll just hit the edges. So what I'm aiming for here is, these are stickers, as I'm always mentioning, but I like a little bit of extra glue to hold them down, but I'm not going to put it all the way along. I'm going to put it at the two ends, create a little curve back again, and just curve it over the top of those so that it's got a lovely loop to it. Oh, that makes me happy. Grand. So glue on one end, glue on the other end, and because it's flying in the middle of nowhere, that really does mean that that extra little bit of glue is a useful thing. So curving over the top of those, it gives an extra little bit of dimension, a little bit of extra detail, a little bit of extra delight. There we go. I think that's done. I think those tags, panels, are done. They could go into a journal. Obviously it would have to be quite a chunky journal because those sticky up poppy seed heads are going to get in the way otherwise. Or they could be card toppers, or for me, they already exist in the way that I want them to, as little panels that have just given me, I don't know, a few minutes, an hour, maybe it wasn't that long, of joy. And that's the reason for making them, is that I've had a gorgeous time of flow and playing with colour and composition and ideas, and that to me is time well spent and a life well lived in making art. Thanks so much for your company. As always, do leave comments, questions down below. Love to hear from you. I will list that background video where we made these watercolour backgrounds, and I will of course put all the ingredients I've been playing with today in a list down below, so check there first. I will try not to miss anything off. Thanks so much for your company. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed that. Sign up to subscribe if you're not already with us. Happy crafting all.